Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I'm joined by professional songwriter and recording touring artist, Gabe Schillman. Gabe has 14 years of experience of songwriting, contract writing, and he has 20 years of experience with touring. So we're going to be talking to him about everything that he's up to and what he's going to be up to in the future. So Gabe, thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure. So I'm very excited to be here.
Why don't you start off by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm, as you said, a full-time artist, songwriter, and I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm out on the road right now. I'm in Monroe, Wisconsin, and I play a show here tomorrow night. And then I head up to north central Wisconsin, and then back to Michigan, and then I'm down in Nashville for the week for CMA Fest. And I'm always on the road. I live on the road. I don't even have a home. I just travel and tour and do my music and songwriter showcases and things like that. It's an amazing life, and I'm very, very grateful for it. I feel like the most blessed man on the planet.
Absolutely. Well, kind of explain to the listeners what you do and how you got started and what fueled your passion to do what you are currently doing.
Yeah. So, as a songwriter, it's very important to get your songs out there and to make sure that they're heard. If they're not heard, then you can't sell them. You can't you can't offer your services. So I tour around a lot. I play a lot of shows. Last year I played over 232 shows nationwide, and I don't even know how many states, but a lot of states. And so I play a lot of live shows, a lot of live performances. I do a lot of songwriter showcases and songwriter rounds. I take every opportunity that I can to get my name out there and my exposure up. I have an amazing band that I play with of just incredible artists and accomplished musicians. Guys with Grammy Awards behind them, and guys that play with mega stars. And I'm always very, very grateful, to have the resources that I do. But that's come from 20, 25 years of doing exactly what I'm doing right now, just putting myself out there. So it's it's a traveling life. It's a road life, and I'm like everything else, it's a job, and I treat it like such. Try to be as professional as I can and punctual. And when I do have the opportunity to work and put myself in front of people, I try to give my absolute best every time that I do. So, as far as what's inspired me to do this, somebody told me a long time ago that music chooses you. You don't choose it. Music chooses you, and when it chooses you, you're chosen for life. You're going to be doing this for life, and if you try to go against the grain of that, then you're going to be absolutely miserable. And there's been times in my life where I've thought, what, maybe this isn't for me, and I kind of veered off on another path, but at the end of the day, I always came back to it because it chose me. So I'm a lifer. And once you accept that and you accept all that comes along with that, it's it becomes a high honor, and it becomes something that you're um, you know fully dedicated to, and if you're not, then it's a drag. But when you fully dedicate to it, it becomes very much a high honor. So I I started out when I was 15 years old, and um, kind of just been going ever since. So
Okay, well, you are a contract writer, a professional contract writer. So explain to listeners what that is.
yeah, so I'm not currently under contract at this time, but I've been under contract for most of my career, and what that means is that um, music is everywhere. It's in every store. It's in your cars. It's in every movie that you watch. It's in every television commercial that you watch. Music, when you truly listen for it, it's literally everywhere. And there's a huge need for songs, whether that's marketing, whether that's other artists that maybe they don't consider themselves songwriters, but they're definitely performing artists. There's a need for songwriters, and so when you come under contract, it's usually a record label or a marketing or promotional company of some sort, and they need music, and it's your job to write the music that they need. So they'll give you outlines and parameters. Maybe you'll get a storyboard that that you have to write a song to, and you look at the images, and you try to think of the right chords, the right notes. Every note sounds like something, whether it's sad, happy, mad. Every note sounds like something, an emotion. So when you look at a storyboard or you hear a concept, you try to find the notes that match that, and you try to find the tempo that matches that. You try to find the lyrics that are going to fit with that, and you do your best as a songwriter to fit within those parameters. And that's essentially what a contract writer does. They write songs to fit needs, and occasionally I get to write a song that I want to write, and maybe that's appealing to another artist. Maybe they can hear that and say, I really like that song, which happens occasionally. And they say, "Oh man, that's a great song. I'd love to have that on my album." And then you work out a contract with them, and you either sell that song or license that song in some way, shape, or form, and you fill a need. That's what I think we're all here to do: is see a need, fill a need. And as a contract writer, that's exactly what you do.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
Okay, well, talk about who influences you to do what you do. Any musicians or anything like that, any people in the industry who influences you?
Man, that's a great question, and I appreciate it. Early in my career, there was an artist, and there's still an artist. He's still a songwriter. His name is John Cox, and John Cox was a songwriter in the 80s and 90s that was very influential in the Christian music scene. And I just fell in love with his music. I fell in love with his lyrics, and he was kind of the first artist that inspired me. I didn't grow up in a home that had a heavy music influence or presence, and so as I started kind of getting into my teen years, I started listening to other things, and I came across John Cox, and he had an album called Sunny Day, and I was just mesmerized by this album. I thought it was one of the greatest things that I'd ever heard. And so John Cox was a very big early influence on me. I started listening to some other songwriters the older I got. There's an artist, his name is Joe Cartoon. Joe Cartoon is famous for creating joecartoon.com, but he's also just an incredible songwriter and lyricist. I love what he does. On top of that, Tom Waits. Tom Waits has a lifelong career as a songwriter, and he's one of the most original, unique people, that you've ever seen or heard. And then most recently, I would say Zach Bryan has probably had a tremendous influence on me. I think lyrically and melodically, he's a breath of fresh air. He's somebody who's bringing three chords and the truth back to songwriting, and those are, I would say, my top three biggest influences as far as being a songwriter. John Cox. Who else would be? John Prine, obviously. I definitely love John Prine as well. But anyway, that would probably sum it up.
Okay, well, tell us about some of the people, musicians, people in the industry you've had the opportunity to work with, and some of the people that you dream of working with one day.
Yeah. Early in my career, I was, I considered myself a Christian songwriter, and I got to work with, my first album was produced by Barry Blair, which was the guitar player for a very, very big Christian band called Audio Adrenaline. Audio Adrenaline was just one of the most influential bands of the mid and late 90s, and Barry Blair was the songwriter for Audio Adrenaline, wrote some of their biggest hits, and he became a very, very prominent producer. And I had the good pleasure of working with him on my first album when I was about 15, 16 years old. He flew up to Grand Rapids, Michigan from Nashville and produced my album. So I was very proud of that. And then that album took me to Nashville when I was about 18, and I got to work with some just incredible people. Wynonna Judd. I got to open for, as a performing artist, I got to open for REO Speedwagon, Pat Green, Gary Allen, Styx, a number of amazing people, and played a few shows with Wynonna Judd. And, I got to be introduced to the country music scene and even the rock world a little bit. And I was very honored to do that. The first label that I signed with was called Little Chucky Records. It was out of Oklahoma City, and it was started by a guy named Chuck Goff, he's the reason that I wear my cuff. Chuck Goff was a mentor and the owner of my record label. And Chuck played for Toby Keith for, 30 plus years, just an incredible icon in the music industry. And he introduced me to, people like Kid Rock and Uncle Kracker and obviously Toby Keith. And I got to spend some time with those guys. And that was, an amazing experience, very inspiring. Most recently, I've started working with, different producers that have just worked with big artists, very, very iconic, historic artists. Ted Perlman is my producer, and he worked with Bob Dylan and Diana Ross and Burt Bacharach and Chicago and all these amazing, amazing artists. And I got the opportunity to record a Bob Dylan song with him, and to record a Bob Dylan song with Ted Perlman, the guy that actually played guitar for Bob and produced his albums and knew him personally. That was a very, very high honor. And just the more you push into this industry, the more you get to meet these people that are just very, very real. And yes, they're stars, but these are normal people that just have something to say, and they figured out a way to say it, and the conversation has been music. So I've been very fortunate in my career, but that's to list a few people. There's a few.
Okay, well, tell us about any current projects or anything upcoming that you're going to be working on that the listeners need to be aware of. Talk about it as much as you can. Talk about what inspired it and anything else you want to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Last year we did a tour, and when I say we, I've got an amazing team of people behind me and supporters and investors, and it takes a village to do this. Nobody can do it on their own, and I think that's the downfall of a lot of artists is they're used to being independent, and they want to be them. They want to do everything themselves, and that's how I've been for a lot of my career. But once I started opening the doors and letting people in, it's allowed me to do bigger things. So last year we launched the United States of Mind tour, which was a national tour, theater tour, full production with the full band and everything. And I had some amazing players play with me. And this year we're getting ready to launch kind of the follow-up to that, which is really just taking that and that concept that we did with the United States of Mind tour and honing it. We're calling it the Rustic Revival Road Show. And what we're doing is going into rural areas, finding a need or a cause or a charity that we can work with where we can help them raise funds, raise awareness, documenting everything with a documentarian, and drawing attention to their cause, and then raising money for that, and then putting on a very, very good show. The Rustic Revival Road Show kind of did a soft launch here recently where we raised some money for the city of Ridgway, Wisconsin, where we actually raised a significant amount of money, and we're able to be a platinum contributor to assembling and constructing a war memorial in Ridgway, Wisconsin, to honor our veterans. And that made me feel very, very good. I've also raised a lot of funds for WeCareMarines.com and tugs.org. Tugs.org is a organization that works with people that have PTSD, any kind of suicidal thoughts or hardships, and kind of helps them get through it. Tugs is an amazing organization that has worked with a lot of farmers, like mom and pop farmers. People don't realize that there's kind of an epidemic across this country where mom and pop farmers are dealing with heavy debt loads and a lot of stress trying to compete with big ag, and the suicide rate in that community is very, very high. So Tugs has done a very amazing job and taken on an amazing mission to try to alleviate some of that and bring solution to that problem. So I put a cause behind what I'm doing, and the Rustic Revival Roadshow is taking all of that and kind of honing it down, and we'll be going to rural areas, taking a big show to 1,000 or 1,500 seat venues, and going into community, not just to play a show, but to raise funds for an organization that is important to that community, documenting it all and drawing attention to that community and that cause, raising the money, and then putting on a very, very good quality show. We'll have guest artists that come up and join me throughout the tour. Everybody from Cassidy Feasby from the Dierks Bentley Band to my producer Ted Perlman, and a number of others, and that's in the works right now. That'll launch sometime in August. As we put the schedule together, I'll have that available on my website at www.kinggabe.com, and that's kind of our main focus right now. Other than that, I'm very excited to get down there and play CMA Fest in Nashville this year, 2025. That'll start in the first week of June. So here next week, I guess it is. I'll be down at CMA Fest, and I'll be doing a lot of interviews and playing some shows right there in downtown Nashville. So we try to keep this train moving in any way, shape, or form that we can, and that would be my best advice to anybody who's out there. Just go, just dive in, just get it going. Know that you have value, know that what you're bringing to the table has value, and know that it's going to take tremendous sacrifice, to get what you want and do the things that matter. But in the end, it's going to matter, and you're going to feel very satisfied and grateful for the opportunity to do what you do.
Okay, well, you just answered my next question, your website, kinggabe.com. So close us out with some final thoughts, maybe, if that was something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Well, I guess my final thoughts are, I mentioned earlier that you can't do this alone, and so many of us, are so independent. We're in order to get into this industry, to choose it, you have to have a little bit of an independent mindset. So a lot of artists are very, very stubborn in that I can do it myself. I can carry my amp myself. I can book my shows myself. But when you let your guard down just a little bit and allow people to come into your life and help, because people want to help, they want to, especially if they love your music and they love what you're doing. If you allow that to happen, the magical things can happen. Where two or more are gathered, it's an incredible force. So I want to give a shout out to my team, Darren Arand from Lena, Illinois, very unsuspecting contributor. He's just been an incredible force behind me. And then Michelle Simler, she handles all of my booking, and she runs my fan club, which is King Gabe's Village on Facebook and TikTok. And investors that have come along, and supporters from John Hammer to Patty Wilkes, and and a number of others, and of course my producer Ted Perlman, just such an absolute legend and rock star. He believes in me and has just put a tremendous amount of faith in me. We're finishing up our LP right now, and I'm very excited to release that sometime in 2025. But since I've put purpose behind what I'm doing and allowed people to come in and help, man, that's made all the difference. It's not me against the world anymore. And I would encourage any artist out there that might be listening, let your guard down just a little bit and let some people in, accept the help that you've been reluctant to accept. And I'm not an overly religious person, but I would say trust God. Take a deep breath and trust that God's got you. And that's a very important thing to do, because it's when you're in the driver's seat, it's a terrifying experience. It's not the best feeling at all. But when a higher power's got you, you can sit back, you can take a nap and breathe for a second, And I think that's very, very important to do. Otherwise, the stress gets to you. The money problems will get to you. There's plenty of money problems. You're in an industry where it just, a lot of times it just doesn't produce a lot. But then when you trust others and you trust God, magical things happen, miracles happen, and it's an amazing thing.
Well said. So, ladies and gentlemen, go to KingGabe.com. Get on Facebook, go to King Gabe Village, and check out that fan club. Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you have an opportunity to go check Gabe out playing at a show, check him out, check out his music. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Visit www.curveball337.com for more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast. Thank you so much for supporting and listening to the show. And Gabe, thank you for the great contributions that you have made to music, the great music and all that you do. And thank you for joining me.
Man, Curtis, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.